guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hello, my name is Victoria. I'm so glad that you are here. Today's video is going to be a military wife advice video. Yet again, I will list a couple of the ones that I've done before in my description box of kind of like MILSO advice videos. I love filming these and I hope that you guys find these helpful. If you have any other requests for military spouse advice related videos, leave them down below. I love getting video ideas from you guys. I actually got this video idea from one of you over on my Instagram. Make sure you are following me over there. I always am posting on my stories asking for suggestions for different things and for video ideas. So yeah, make sure you're following me over there and let's go ahead and get into this video. So it's raining outside. It's so cozy. I'm off today, which is why I don't have any makeup on or anything like that. But I'm just like super cozy and it's still kind of warm outside here in Florida. Let me know down below if it's cold or still hot where you live, because it's definitely cooled off a little bit here in Florida, but it's still kind of humid some days and still like in the 80s some days. So I'm definitely ready for it to be cold, but I still have a little bit to go. But I'm pretending like it's cold inside my house. I still have the air conditioning on, but hopefully you guys can't hear the rain or anything like that. But today's video is going to be pros and cons of living on a military base. And I feel like a lot of you guys will like this video because I get a lot of questions about living on base, like a lot. I think that's one of the most often asked questions I get is about how did we get on the housing list? Do we like living on base? How do we not like it? Like all these different questions. So I just thought that this would be a really good video to make. So I have a little chart on my phone made of pros and cons in my notes. So hopefully you guys will find this helpful, and let's go ahead and get started. My first pro of living on base is the convenience. So for me, my husband works literally like 2 minutes from our house. Housing just happens to be right by the hospital where my husband works. So it's really convenient. When we first moved here, we only had one car and my husband rode his bike to work for like 8 months before we got a second car, which was super nice because he was on day shift, and now he works crazy hours, so he can't really ride his bike to work. But it was definitely a nice option, and he got to like exercise on his way to and from work, so that was pretty cool. Also, just like, you don't have to leave the base if you don't want to. We have a grocery store, we have a gas station, we have the BX, which has like a ton of stuff in there if you ever need anything. There is a Burger King if you want fast food. Like everything that you could think of, they have it on base. There's a dog park. You just really don't have to leave the base if you don't want to. So if you just don't feel like going really that far, then you can just stay on base and you don't have to worry about going in and out of the gate if you don't want to, which can be a con, which I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I just think that the convenience on base is super nice, especially if you have friends that live on base as well. You can like literally walk. I feel super safe on base. I think that's another pro I have written. That's my next one, so I'll talk about that, is safety. I personally feel really safe living on base. Now, at this base that we're at, we live on base, but at our last base, the housing was actually off base. So some bases, base housing is actually off base, and I know that can be kind of confusing, but there was no gate to get into our last base housing, and it was actually open to civilians. They could actually live there. They were just like low on the list of priority to get a house. But yeah, and I just didn't really like that. I felt like, what was the point of living in base housing? I don't know. Here, I really like it because we're behind the gate, and although things definitely still do happen, people's cars get broken into and things like that, I feel really safe. I don't feel unsafe walking my dog. I don't feel unsafe like if I were to go on a run or something like that. Like, I really like living on base and I feel pretty safe. I don't know about everybody else, but since my husband does work like crazy shifts, I haven't really had a problem feeling unsafe. I feel like if I lived off base, I would be a little bit more of a scaredy cat than I already am. When my husband is like gone at night or things like that, I don't know. I feel pretty safe living on base. One of the cons that I had for living on base is the inconvenience. So I know I talked about the convenience, but there also is some inconvenience, and I have a few examples to tell you. The first one is that sometimes they have to like shut down the gates for like if an alarm goes off on base, or if they're like testing an alarm, then they won't let you go off base, and sometimes they won't let you go on base either. So you're kind of like at a standstill, and that's happened to me so many times where I like need to be somewhere and they're doing that, and it's super inconvenient. Even though I know they have to do it, it's just like an inconvenience. And then just having to go through the gate anytime you leave or go on base, and the speed limits on base are so annoying. Like the speed limit going out of the gate by our house is like 5 miles miles an hour, no kidding. And security forces will pull you over because they're petty like that, and it's super annoying. So those are like just a few little things. Another thing that is a big inconvenience of living on base is when family or friends want to come visit, because you have to get them passes at the visitor center. Now, some bases aren't as strict, and as long as they're like riding in your car and they have their driver's license, they won't be super sticklers about it. But here I have noticed most times when you go through the gate with family members, or definitely if they're driving their own car, they have to have a pass. But you have to go to the visitor center and they have to do like this background check and fill out a bunch of papers, and they have to have like their picture taken, and it's just like a process, especially if you have multiple people staying with you. People under 18 don't have to get a pass, but if you're over 18, sometimes it's just like if you have like 5 family members coming to stay, it's super frustrating to have to do all that, and then having to worry about telling them how to get off base, how to go through the gate, all that jazz. So I think that that is a little bit inconvenient, but yeah, so those are some of the inconveniences of living on base. Another con of living on base is not being able to invest in a home or save money from your BAH. So when you live on base, at least from the ones I've experienced, they take all of your BAH. Now, I have heard some people say that some bases you actually have to pay out of pocket a little bit for certain houses on base, but I don't know. I haven't ever had to deal with that. Here, they just take all of your BAH. So you don't even really see it, which can be kind of convenient because then you don't have to worry about paying rent or anything like that. But if you are somebody who really wants to be on a tight budget and you want to save, let's say like $300 a month from your BAH, you can find rent that is X amount of dollars, and it's like $300 under your BAH, and then you'll pocket the rest of that money. So that can be a little bit of an inconvenience, like a con of living on base, because you don't get to save any of your BAH, which, if you don't know, BAH is your basic housing allowance from the military that the service member gets if you're married or above a certain rank and they can live like on their own. And then also just like not being able to invest in your own home. I haven't really minded living on base and using BAH, but I feel like I would rather, if I was living off base, I would rather buy a home than give our BAH to just renting a home off base to like a landlord or something. I would rather be investing in our own home and paying money towards a mortgage that we could make money off of later by selling a home. Does that make sense? So yeah, that can be a little bit of a con, but some people don't really care and they would just rather live on base because it's like easy, or it can be easy. But if you want to like invest and save a little bit of money, you can definitely live off base. Another pro of living on base is maintenance and lawn care. So I know every base doesn't have lawn care. Our last base didn't have lawn care. They did do a few things for us, but we had to cut our own grass. And here they cut our grass for us. They do all the landscaping. So not that they do a great job, I will say, like, we've had definitely a lot of people on base complain about the lawn care, because a lot of times they'll skip your yard for no reason, or they'll just do kind of like a crappy job. But I'm thankful that they do it, because I know my husband doesn't like to cut the grass. I don't like to cut the grass. So it's just easier to have them do it. And in the summertime, they mow our lawn once a week, which is really nice. And then when it gets into the cooler months, they do it every other week. And then in the winter, they kind of take a break because we don't really need it as much. But they take care of like all the mulch. They take care of like the bushes that are in front of our house. They like trim them and replace them if they need to. I think that's really nice. And then maintenance, I think that one thing I will miss when we do move off base and own a home is maintenance, because anytime like there's I don't know, if your door is broken, I'm just trying to think of random things, or if there's a leak, or if you have mold. We had a really big mold problem when we moved into this house, and it was not fun. But maintenance always comes and it's free, and they will fix it for you. So at our last base, we even had what was called a self-help store, which was really, really sweet. It was a little store you could go to. It was down like in base housing, like down the street from us. And they had like light bulbs, toilet seats, air filters, everything like that. And you could get them for free. You just had to have your ID and you had to write your address down. But you could get things, you could borrow lawnmowers from them. It was really nice, and it was all free. And it was just like super convenient if you ever needed little things for your house. Now here, they won't change light bulbs for you unless it's one that you can't reach, which I think is really silly. Like, they can't just come change it. But we have had to change light bulbs before. But yeah, I think maintenance is a really nice perk of living on base, especially if your base is like maintenance is really nice and helpful. So a con that I have for living on base is being surrounded by military people and drama, which this just depends person to person. I don't really like have any drama or anything like that, but if you are living on base, there's a lot of, I guess if you're on a military spouse page, you'll know what I'm talking about. There can be a lot of drama on the spouse page, a lot of wives who are maybe stay-at-home moms or stay at home, and they like to stir the pot on the Facebook page, and then like neighbors will get into it and people won't like each other and just stupid things. But it's like, sometimes you kind of just want to be separated from that, and that's something that Devin has struggled with. Like, he wants to come home from work and leave the military life at work and just come home and relax. But sometimes when you live on base, you kind of feel like you can't escape the military life, like you're still in it, I guess. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. I know I have some friends that feel that way too. But living off base, you can kind of like leave the military life on base, leave the base, come home and just like resume normal life. But when you live on base, sometimes you can feel like you're just like always in it, and it's always like you're always reminded of it when you look outside and you're like, oh, I obviously live on a military base, every house looks the same, all these people are in uniform, like things like that. But there's also like a pro to that too. I don't know, I feel kind of nice being surrounded by military people as well, but I know that can also be like a turn off for some people. But yeah, there's definitely still like drama between spouses and just stupid petty things that people have nothing better to do than like start drama on Facebook. But yeah. The last pro that I had was to not having to worry about paying rent, which, okay, before I say this, one of my biggest pet peeves, and I don't know why this bothers me so much, is when people say that we live on base for free, like we don't pay rent. And I don't necessarily agree with that. My husband and whoever you are married to, the spouse who is the active duty member, they get money every month for housing, and that is separate from their paycheck, and they're working hard to get that money. So I don't really feel like housing is free. I feel like we still are taking BAH and paying housing to live here. If we lived off base, that money would all come to us in my husband's paycheck. And I say us because all of our money, like we see it as just each other's. We don't see it as his money and my money. And we would use that to pay our rent, and whatever was left over we could keep because my husband works really hard for that BAH. So I don't know, it just bothers me when people say that we live for free because we really don't. But anyways, that's all I have to say about that. But what I meant was you don't have to worry about actually physically paying the rent. Typically the like installation or like company that is your housing is through, does that make sense, will just like take it out for you. There's a word for it, like an allotment that they'll take out every month. So at our last base, we had to set it up ourselves, but then it automatically came out each paycheck half and half. And here they just do it for us. We didn't have to do anything. But that's really nice because then you don't have to worry about like, oh, did I pay my rent, or did we pay the mortgage? Like, you don't have to worry about it. It's just already done. So I think that is a nice perk. And the last con that I have is just a little minor thing, but it's just not being able to personalize your own home. Now, I have seen, if you're a military spouse and you're not on White Walls on Facebook, it's a group. It's so cool to see that because there's like tens of thousands of people on there, I think. And there's like a White Walls home, White Walls kitchen, White Walls cleaning. And it's just a lot of military spouses that, show how they decorate their home or little hacks that they've done to personalize their home. And a lot of people are super creative. I'm not really creative like that. But I guess what I mean is like not being able to change the layout of the home, not being able to pick out the cabinets and countertops. Even painting is kind of a hassle because here you have to get approved of which paint color you want to use, and then you have to paint it back at the end. So it's just kind of like a big hassle. And you're not allowed to do super dark colors either. I remember them telling us that when we moved in. But yeah, so like all of our walls in our house are white, and I can't wait to not have white walls in the house that we live in, like in the future, and I'm just so excited for that. But yeah, so just not being able to pick out like doorknobs and things like that. I mean, you could change little things, but then you would have to put it all back and it would just be annoying. I know a lot of people do like contact paper in the kitchen and things like that, but I just like, I don't have time for that. I don't care enough to do that. But it does look really nice if you have the energy to do it. But yeah, just not being able to personalize your own home can be a little bit like a bummer, but it's still okay. It's still okay. So those are all of the pros and cons that I have for living on a military base. If you have any other pros and cons to help each other out, then leave them down below. For new military spouses that are getting ready to maybe PCS to their first base or things like that, and they want to know like what it's like living on base, that could be super helpful for them. So if this was helpful for you, make sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know if you liked it and any other ideas for advice videos that you want to see. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I love you so much. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.